So my name is Andrew Salazar, and the topic that I chose was ethnic and racial minorities, and basically how they're receiving less quality health services and healthcare compared to whites. The main injustice being that race and racism is playing a huge factor into this, that the hospitals and healthcare is allowing this to play a factor into them receiving health services. This picture really represents the inequality and how we are all the same, and how we must acknowledge that race and racism is playing a factor into this before we can ever fix the problem. It was first acknowledged through my research that the Institute of Medicine, they made a report that showed that their research that racial and ethnic minorities were less likely to receive preventive medical services compared to whites. They're also receiving lower quality care when they get the health service. This goes against distributive justice theories, and I think those principles will really help this issue, because according to Kay Laboch, distributive justice is the equal distribution of goods, and I believe that we aren't receiving that, and that's why race is playing a factor to us receiving equal distribution of goods. Healthcare is an example of this distribution and how we are not receiving that. A society in which inequalities do not arise is basically one that the principles of distributive justice are being shown, and healthcare is playing a role into that, and we are not receiving equal distribution to everyone in our society. So this picture continues with my distributive justice principles, because we should be all equally getting the same goods, because we are all the same people, we're all humans, and we should be receiving the same type of goods regardless of race or ethnicity. This is a picture of Martin Luther King, and he was someone I thought about through my research, because he had to do a social movement and deal with social justice issues a long time ago. They're still very apparent in today's society. One of my favorite quotes from him says that people fail to get along because they don't know each other, and they don't know each other because we don't communicate with each other. So this is very evident in healthcare, basically because we're not communicating with each other the issues that are going on. People believe that everyone's getting the same equal treatment, when in reality, we're all not getting the same type of treatment in healthcare and in society. This picture actually brought up the principles of utilitarianism that I was thinking about. So Laboch says that the best thing is to do the most right for the most amount of people. And that's just something that's not happening in our society today. The most good is to treat everyone equally when it comes to healthcare, but everyone has a right to a standard of living, and a standard of living for themselves and also for the family, and race and racism should not be playing a factor into that. This is an interesting case that I found throughout my research that talks about George Simpkins Jr. and other dentists and how they sued two hospitals that were named Moses H. Cone and Wesley Long Hospital, and they were being sued because they were only treating white patients and black patients were not being treated equally. They basically refused to treat black patients, and white ones were the only ones that were being allowed. So the dentists got sick, and then they also ended up suing these hospitals. There was also a patient that came in needing surgery because the black hospital that were treating them, they were full, and the white hospital decided not to also treat them. So they initially lost this case, but they ended up winning it in the Supreme Court when they appealed it, and it ended up starting a movement for desegregation of hospitals throughout the entire South. This picture specifically is the plaintiff and the CEO of the hospital that's shaking his hand after the verdict came out. This is a picture of a cancer patient, which made me think about that because I was researching the Greensboro Health Disparities Collaborative, and they're doing focus groups to talk about how black people in the society, if they're still experiencing racism in today's society. Specifically with cancer treatment, their findings were that black men and women with early stage breast and lung cancer were less likely to complete the treatment compared to whites. 81% of black people completed the treatment, while 87% of white people completed the treatment. So there's a 6% disparity between the two, and that's a bigger number when you actually think about the percentages. And specifically with breast cancer, black women had 80% survival rate in a 5-year span, while white women had a 91% survival rate in the same 5-year span. the people who conducted this research actually tried to address it by offering training sessions on racial disparities from the Racial Equity Institute. They figured out that people actually didn't know what was going on in cancer treatments. They didn't even know that they were getting less quality treatment. Most of the black patients weren't aware of all the steps that goes into cancer treatment, so they were getting less quality and they weren't even aware of it. This picture just reminds me of the stress that black people go through on a daily basis and how that leads to more health problems in the future. That reminded me of the video we watched for class, the lecture on natural cases, and it talked about how African women are much more likely to give birth to premature or low-weight babies. Chronic stress is a big reason why, and everything they go through birth and all the circumstances they go through since they were born led to this health services. And to pile on top of that, how they aren't able to receive the same quality as white people, this is why the mortality rate is much higher for black people than white. Yeah, this picture just talks about equality again, and basically how there's so many stories about people still receiving less quality care and experiencing racism in healthcare today. Monique Tello was a doctor that I read about research from Harvard, and she talks about her own patient and how she came in with severe pain, and they didn't want to treat her because they thought that she was only trying to get subscribed meds, and she didn't really have an issue. She also said that she was being disrespected from the front desk all the way to when she talked to the doctor, which is a huge issue in our society. This is a picture of a nurse and her patient. I'm personally not a nurse, but I think that this topic will be very useful for nurses because the Chesney and Anderson talks about nurses being like the crucial midpoint and link between those who are vulnerable and those who have the access to solutions, which are doctors. So basically, if the nurses are able to treat people equally and treat people with respect, that'll end up being like a trickle-down respect to everybody. Simply treating all the patients equally and advocating for equality will end up going a big way for nurses. And I know this is a nursing class, so I think that this is an issue that many people could learn about and could actually have a big impact in the future. So that's basically my presentation on my vulnerable population, which was racial and ethnic minorities. I think people can learn a lot, and people are not aware that whites are still receiving these type of advantages compared to minorities. And that was basically it. Thank you.